Hey friends, it's Will and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me today. We are going to be making a completely bespoke purple alligator passport cover. It is going to be stunning. I think we can all agree upon that. Now that the sun is coming out and it's getting warmer, we're getting into near the summer, I thought it was time to make something fitting for a summer of travel. So that's what we're going to do today. Alligator, or well, in this case crocodile, is by far my favorite leather to work with, but it can be really quite challenging at times. Unlike working with, let's say, calf or goat, it's really quite different, because when you are working with an exotic like alligator or crocodile and you move the leather, you get these sort of ripples coming out where the scales meet. I think they're called veins, the spaces between the scales. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what they're called. So this crocodile skin, sorry, I will keep calling it alligator by accident. I kind of use the terms interchangeably. I know they're different species, so do forgive me on that. But one of the things about working with it, especially when it's this thin, so this is 1.5 millimeters, it's been split down. They normally come in quite thick. They normally come in nearly 3 millimeters thick. Alligator skin, unlike, let's say, goat or calf, because they're probably the most common leathers to work with, they are skin. This is also skin, but it's kind of not at the same time. They're scales, so it's a very different material to work with. It's still leather because it's gone through the tanning process. That's what makes something, that defines something as leather. When you move something like calf or goat, you don't get these sort of bulges out. It doesn't spread out at the edges because it has the same flexibility at all parts of the leather. So we're going to be lining it, but not in the way that you probably think. Normally, when you think about lining something, you think about fully laminating it. But in many, many videos, I've told you, don't fully laminate pretty much anything. For two reasons. One, it makes it really, really stiff. And for the second reason two, the fantastic thing about leather goods is that they are completely repairable, or they can be completely repairable. And I like to make my pieces so that they last forever. Well, not forever, but for your lifespan at least, if I do my job properly. And one of the things about that is that you need to make it to be repaired. And if you fully laminate something, you cannot fully repair it, because you can't take that lining out without ruining it, without damaging it. So this is going to be quite a lot softer than you might expect, because when you fully laminate something, as well as not being repairable, it gets so much stiffer. So I wanted to make this so it's really soft, so it's really feels a lot more natural than if it was fully laminated. So the pockets, the compartments inside where you'll put your notebook or your passport covers inside, they will be fully laminated, just because they can be, and they kind of need to be, for a little bit of support, a little bit of structure within the piece. However, the exterior is going to just be glued 10 millimeters around the edge. That is kind of my go-to amount of material to glue, the amount of leather that I glue. Now you might be wondering, okay, so if it's split down and you want it soft, why are you backing it? Why are you laminating it to microfiber? That is a very good question, and I know I'm going to get comments about it. So when you are working with something that needs a little bit more body, I could either have had it a lot thicker, but it came to me at 1.5 mil, and I didn't want to laminate it with something like a 0.6 millimeter bonded leather, because that would make it really, really stiff, and I didn't want that. I wanted this to be soft and supple. And I didn't want to laminate it with something like a goat split for the same reason. It would make it slightly softer than a bonded leather, but also much, much stiffer than I wanted it. So I went for a microfiber. Now this is 0.3 millimeters, 0.4 millimeters. It's very, very thin, but it just gives it a little bit more body, a little bit more structure than it had before. And that was my goal for this. Yes, it is not really removable. However, because it's so soft and because it is a synthetic material, microfiber is synthetic, it will not break down. Synthetic materials kind of last forever, and that's one of the reasons that I dislike using them in principle, but saying that, they do have their uses, and making something last a lot longer is one of them. So these are the pockets, and as you saw, I'm not putting anything between the exterior crocodile tail and the interior, the lining leather, the lining goat skin. This goat skin I've had split down to 0.8 millimeters, which is the sort of rule of thumb I use for basically any lining. It's almost always 0.8 unless my client wants it thicker. I very, very rarely go thinner, just because you don't really get much of the grain of the leather. The whole point of leather is to have that grain. That's what gives it strength. Now, crocodile, alligator, these don't have the same type of grain that mammal leather does. They have a more I don't really know how to explain it. Actually, it's a really weird backing to it, but it's not really the same grain. It's not the same type of material as a mammal leather. But moving on from that, because I don't really want to spend the entire video talking about the grain of leather. You didn't come here for that. I do want to say an absolutely gigantic and very, very heartfelt thank you to everyone who has supported this channel, because a couple of days ago, and if you follow me on social media you'll know this, we hit 20,000 subscribers. That is a huge deal. I hit 10,000 about 3-4 months ago, and 20,000, it just means the absolute world to me that you guys have supported me, that you guys love what I do, and that you want to see more of what I do. So thank you so much for that. 20,000. I didn't even think that I'd make 100. I remember talking to a friend of mine when I just started the channel. His name's Ollie Burton. He also has a YouTube channel. He's a doctor. He has a medical YouTube channel. And I remember talking to him when I had like 95 subscribers, saying, can you subscribe so that I can get my own URL and have my channel name? And that was only a couple of years ago, and I never envisioned even within a million years that I would hit 1,000 subscribers, and then I hit 10,000, and now I'm at 20,000 subscribers. So thank you, truly. It has been one hell of a journey. When I started my channel, I at the time was in touch with Ali Abdal. You may know his channel as well, and he said to me, starting a YouTube channel would change your life, and it has. It has completely and utterly transformed my life. I have met so many people through this. I've got so many exciting things coming, and it's all because I make some silly videos on the internet teaching you guys how to play with leather. It's life-changing and life-altering, so thank you. And I'm going to be organising a giveaway the next couple of weeks, so do make sure you subscribe for that, because I owe you guys so much for the support that you've given me over the last 2 or 3 years. I think my channel is 3 years old. I will have to have a look at the analytics. I haven't done that, but I will have to do that. So thank you, honestly. But back to the video. So I wanted to make this as lightweight as possible whilst also keeping the strength. So what I've done is I've also skived down on my belt skiver. I need to record that. I know I forgot to turn the camera on. I'm sorry. So I split down the edges to 0.6, I think they were, and it was just around the edges. And then it's time to glue it all together. So I use EcoStar 16PIU as my glue. I always get asked that, and I always tell you, and I always forget to put it in the description. So I will try and do that this time. So I'm gluing only 10 millimeters around the edge, and that is for the reason I stated before, because as that glue will break down. Glue always breaks down over time. There's no such thing as a water-based adhesive. I don't even think that solvent-based adhesives last forever. But because it's only 10 mil, it means that you can get inside that and take it apart without damaging it. This is one of those things about exotics that is difficult, because when you glue them over a curve, which I do for passport covers, wallets, any of these things that I want to give them a bit of a curve, goat and calf won't really do much when you bend them over. However, with exotics, because of the spaces between the scales, when you glue them on a curve, which is what you just saw me do, they will spread out slightly. You will get a little bit of this with non-exotics, but not quite to the same extent. So I didn't record it in this, but you have to trim it back down because you will spread that leather out. I much prefer working with matte exotics to glazed or millennium exotics. I find them they're harder to work with because they're not finished in the same way, but at the same time I find them just a little bit more classy and a little bit more forgiving. Why am I stamping this 4 million times? Because the first time you stamp it, you're putting the foil onto it. Didn't get quite the same response, so I put a second coat of foil, a second layer of foil on. And then you stamp it without the foil to push that. When you're it's technically called debossing. Most people call it embossing. When you're debossing foil into leather or into anything, the way foil works is the top layer of it is that shiny substance you see. The underneath side of it, the bottom side of it, is actually adhesive. It's a heat activated adhesive. So the first time you do it, you're just putting it on, and then the second time you do it, you hold it there for a little bit longer, and it allows that adhesive that's on the underside of the foil to fully glue onto the leather. That's how it works, if you didn't know. So you can see the lining bulging up slightly. It's not actually bulging up, it's just not glued all the way across. Some people don't like this, and in that case, you can, when you fully laminate linings, they won't have that. But when you fully laminate linings with exotics, you'll see the scale pattern. So you kind of have to pick between the two. You have to pick between a loose looking lining and seeing the scales. So yeah, it's personal preference at that point. And now for what took probably an hour and a half, stitching. This is my first/second, can't decide which, favorite part of making anything. I love stitching. To me, it is a symphony of movement of the hand. It is just so relaxing, and I'm gonna make you watch a lot of it now, so enjoy. Oh, before I do, I will get asked this, and I know I will. I'm using a 0.4mm Misi superfine thread, and my stitches are 3mm. It's a 3mm stitch. One of the great things about matte alligator or crocodile is you get that sort of pulling effect at the edge where you stitch it. And I actually quite like that, where it sort of pulls in and gives it a little bit of a padded raised effect. I really quite enjoy that. In my opinion, creasing is probably the most important part of any project. If you do crease, it is the most important part, because in my opinion, and you may disagree, and if you do disagree, let me know in the comments down below, I think that putting that very, very simple line on your piece makes so much difference. I think it gives it that final look of just elegance. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I can't wait to see you next time. Have a phenomenal week. Take care.